The Sorcerer Supreme reigns supreme at the box office this weekend, but did you catch the sleight of hand as Easter eggs were revealed before your very eyes? Spoiler alert, we're heading into Steven's multiverse on ScreenJunkies News. Say the magic words and the box office goes strange. Benedict Cumberbatch's debut as Dr. Stephen Strange in the Marvel Cinematic Universe cast a spell over the box office this weekend, debuting at number 1 and grossing just under 85 million domestic. This debut beat out Trolls, now in its second weekend, by nearly double. For a standalone movie about a character many are just now being introduced to, this bodes well for the continuing expansion of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And like the Steve Ditko panels literally come to life in the film, things are about to get very trippy up in here. We're about to break down the most important Easter eggs you'll need to know as we barrel forward towards the Infinity War. And of course, it should go without saying, but just so you know, Alicia, we will be talking spoilers. Roll the graphic. Get your words right, Alicia.
Yeah, get them right.
I know. Well, I'm going to be very twisty-tongued today because we've got some really interesting names. So luckily, to help me out, I've got a couple of experts. Here's the Sorcerer Supreme of movie fights, Dan Murrell.
Oh, thank you so much. I like that very much. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and today we are eating Easter eggs.
Ooh, love it. And he knows much more than the Ancient One when it comes to Doctor Strange. Matt Key.
The Ancient One knows a lot, and I have nothing clever to say about breakfast.
Breakfast is delicious. And over to our right, we have opening the portal of internet madness, the social correspondent, Charlie Feldman. Hey.
Hi, I write the monologues, so if you like them, I write them, and if you don't like them, I still write them.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just stuffed up the end then, but you kind of got what I was going for.
Yeah, mostly.
So if you guys want to join in on the conversation, use the hashtag SJNews, and Charlie over there will look out for your tweets. But let's get into it with one of the most important Easter eggs, the Cloak of Levitation. Some people are likening this to Aladdin's rug. What would you say?
I loved it, and I mean, I love that they went for it, because in the comics, a lot of times the Cloak of Levitation actually does kind of have a mind of its own. It really kind of depends on who's writing it, but it's always kind of been able to kind of act without Doctor Strange's input, like in his best interests. And I love that they went for it. Like, my fiance is like, she was like, well, that was my favorite character, was Capey. She kept calling me Capey. And I kept saying, no, it's Cloaky. It's the Cloak of Levitation, because I'm that nerd. So
no, I loved it. It adds some humor to the movie as well.
It did. I think it was Marvel is just really pushing the boundaries on, I think they've given every animate object, they've gone down to raccoons. So now they're giving animate objects personalities. So, what are they going to do next? Rocks, stones, sticks.
Thor Ragnarok. They've got a rock being who.
Ragnarok.
It's rags and rocks. It's rags and rocks fighting.
Perfect.
Marvel can do anything at this point, and
it's
I
like that
believe
SNL sketch from Guardians of the Galaxy where they're like, you watched a raccoon and a talking tree. You will watch anything we do. Yeah, that sketch is dead on.
Yep.
Pretty much. Another big Easter egg was the night nurse. Matt, you need to explain this to me. Something to do with Rachel McAdams' character?
All right, so in the 70s, Stan Lee wanted to reach a female audience, so and he was the editor. He was still the editor at the time, so he had a comic book called The Night Nurses created, and it was 3 night nurses who all eventually went off on their own. And the 3 night nurses were Claire Temple, who we have in the Daredevil and the Netflix series. Then there was also Christine Palmer, as we saw in Doctor Strange, and then there was another one named Linda Evans. Linda Evans is the one who was actually in The Oath, which is what this movie was directly referencing with Night Nurse. But they basically heal superheroes. They're like on the DL, superheroes are like, well, there's 3 night nurses around New York you can go to. And Christine Palmer is one of them. But thankfully they made her a doctor, because women can be doctors.
Yeah, that's right. And Dan, I love that scene in the movie, the whole astral fight over Rachel McAdams.
Absolutely. No, that was one of the things this movie did great, which was to take what we know of superhero action and kind of give it that extra, no pun intended, dimension.
Extra strangeness.
That extra strangeness. But yeah, no, I like the fact that, and I actually just saw it again last night. The first time when he comes in, but I love the second time when he's at Christine, and she just goes like, "Oh, come on."
Like,
Yeah,
not
she
again.
just,
Well, Matt, the oath you just mentioned,
Yeah.
what is that exactly?
The Oath, by the way, if you've never read a Doctor Strange comic and you're wanting to get into Doctor Strange, The Oath is the best comic to start with. It's by Brian K. Vaughan. It's from the mid-2000s, and it's a very simple story. It's a very simple story, and it shows Doctor Strange at his best and his worst, and it has all the philosophy of Doctor Strange in it. And it's 6 small issues. It's easy to read. It's great. It's one of the best out there. The Oath and the hospital scene that we were just talking about, that's like from page 1 of The Oath, is Doctor Strange has been shot by the magic gun of Hitler. It's the only bullet that could get through his defenses because it's a cursed weapon. So Wong has brought him to the hospital, and he's unconscious, and his astral form appears to help the night nurse, Linda Carter, in this instance. But he's like, "Hey, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong." She's like, "Who are you? Stop this!"
Oh, cool. So they had a little touch of that
Yeah.
in this movie. Shambhala, Dan, I remember as the joke about the Wi-Fi. I didn't actually know it was
joke.
an Easter egg.
I apparently everything in this movie was an Easter egg. I didn't know either. That's why I was joking before we started the show. Like, Matt's job is to be the expert today, and I'm just here to go like, "Oh,
yeah.
interesting."
Yeah, interesting. Well, tell us, Matt, what is Shambhala?
So Shambhala is directly from Scott Derrickson's gone on the record to say that one of his favorite Doctor Strange comics is Into Shambhala. I can't remember the artist, but I know it was written by J.M. DeMatteis, and it's literally a graphic novel. It's like a storybook. You don't have word balloons, you don't have anything like that, and it follows Doctor Strange, who's offered this. If he accomplishes 3 various feats, he can bring a new renaissance, a very high renaissance, and it'll be sort of the last renaissance of humanity because they will achieve perfection. And Doctor Strange can bring that by helping out the Lords of Shambhala and passing their 3 tests, and then he figures out, oh, maybe this actually isn't the greatest deal because to get to that renaissance, there's some pretty high costs.
So did you like that as a joke? Does it work as
it's
a
perfect as
Wi-Fi
a joke. It's
Yeah.
perfect as a joke. I loved it as a joke.
Yeah. I bet you were one of the few people that was like, I get it.
Oh, I know that. I know that. That's more than a mantra.
Yeah.
Shambhala also is it's sort of like a Shangri-La. It's also like a mythical place.
Yep.
And actual mythology, but and Doctor Strange, that's Into Shambhala is a comic book that Scott Derrickson loved and pulled a lot from. Yeah.
So Charlie, anything happening on Twitter yet?
They definitely want to talk about the staff of the Living Tribunal and Living Tribunal in general.
Absolutely.
Okay, we will definitely get to that. Tell us about the staff of the Living Tribunal.
Doing that now? All right.
Yeah, let's jump
so the
ahead.
staff of the Living Tribunal is not anything from the comic books as far as I know. I think they made it up for the movie, and I think they made it up because they just wanted to say the Living Tribunal in a Marvel movie, which I was excited about.
Yeah.
The Living Tribunal is he's a character that has 4 sides to his head. So he's got the head, and then he's got a face here, and it's fully veiled, partially veiled, and then hooded, and then the face on the back is a void. It's just gone. That was apparently the strain. Anyway, that's super deeper cut than it needs to be.
How long have you been reading Doctor Strange comics
Since
for?
I was 10. Yeah. But the Living Tribunal basically watches over the multiverse. He's sort of the guardian of the entire multiverse.
Yep.
So he's a big character, and if they're talking multiverse stuff and then they're bringing Living Tribunal into it, and we've seen that Marvel's not afraid to dig deep with their cosmic stuff by doing Celestials and just the Infinity Stones themselves. It's pretty deep. So
Does the Living Tribunal hang out with the Watcher? Do they? Do they have keggers and barbecue?
Probably. Though the Living Tribunal is the size of a universe.
Oh, okay.
He'd manifest himself as a smaller being. He can, but yeah.
All right.
He probably, but it's funny in the Infinity Gauntlet comic book, the Living Tribunal teams up with the Stranger and the Celestials and all these other characters to try and defeat Thanos, and they still can't.
So Daniel Drum is referred to just as Drum in the film, but he's the master of the Sanctum Sanctorum of New York. Tell us about him. Is he an important character?
Daniel Drum is the deceased brother to Jericho Drum. Jericho Drum goes on to become Brother Voodoo, and at some point he becomes Dr. Voodoo.
Oh yeah, I
He's the
heard
Sorcerer
about
Supreme at some
Brother
point.
Voodoo, and someone asked Scott Derrickson at a Q&A about Brother Voodoo, and he said, that was definitely an intention.
Yeah, like I read that interview, and he said that he definitely wants to try and bring Brother Voodoo into the sequel in some capacity, but Daniel is his deceased brother who used his magic to sort of possess his brother in a way. Not like possess, but he's like always present with Jericho. Like the spirit of his dead brother is always inside of Jericho. Like, don't do this, don't do this. Oh, this might be a better way to do it. So he's there doing that. And then Bendis' last run on New Avengers, he actually did a big thing where Daniel Drum had left Jericho Drum and was like possessing people at random, and everyone was fighting. It was basically Doctor Strange versus the entire Marvel universe, all because of Daniel Drum. It was freaking great.
Yeah, I mean, I just love how much there is in the film. When I watched it, and I was like, I didn't get any of these. I just went like straight over my head. But I'm so
They're
glad
throwing
we
a
have
lot of
you.
names out in this movie that I assumed that you are understanding and that I was listening to.
Yeah, like
I
this
was
one
like,
sounds.
I know that one. Oh, I know that one. Oh, I was recognizing like from The Oath, the scene in the hospital. Like that's straight out of the comics.
Right.
Like, it was just like,
You're like,
this is the
yes,
best.
do it. Tina Minoru, the woman wielding a staff with a circular shape.
That is the Staff of One. It's a powerful artifact in the Runaways. It was first introduced in the Runaways as used by Nico Minoru. Nico Minoru is the daughter to Tina Minoru. Tina Minoru is a dark wizard. I can't remember. I think it's the Enclave or something like that. A team of villains, and the basics. The Runaways. That's the Runaway. We don't want to talk
The
about
Runaways, but that's
Tina
coming
Minoru
soon
is
as
a
well.
dark wizard.
Right.
She's
okay.
not dark in this movie. She's trying to help Wong defend the Hong Kong Sanctum. But the Staff of One is a very powerful relic, basically.
Right. I'm going to need you to draw me a map of all this stuff and like.
Sure.
Connect it
I can
together.
absolutely do that, yeah.
Because the wand of Watum sounds like it's a made-up thing. Doesn't sound like it's a
I
real
think
To be
they're
fair,
messing with
it
us
is.
on
situation.
some of this stuff.
Well,
To
yeah.
be fair, the Wand of Watum
but it
is
just sounds
made
like
up.
we're saying words now. What is the wand of Watum?
The Wand of Watum is a staff with like two demonic heads on either end. The
so
Wand
is this
of Watum,
one of the relics? Or?
it's one of the relics.
Okay.
Wong actually wields it at the very end.
Oh yeah.
The Wand of Watum is one of the deeper cuts I think that they made, and I can't believe they actually had it. I was a little surprised they had it and then didn't use it for anything, because it is like such a powerful artifact in the Marvel universe. But it basically belongs to one of the 8 main deities that the sorcerers kind of invoke when they like do their
Oh right.
extra dimensional stuff. Watum is one of those deities from his dimension. Just the Watum dimension is all it's kind of known for. But he's kind of an elemental. So the Wand of Watum is sort of like a very powerful elemental weapon. It's like, oh, here's fire, and here's wind, and here's like
That's
all
cool.
the rains. It's also like sort of like very much like the Gem of Sidorak that the Juggernaut has.
I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
didn't know
you
that.
know that one?
King
I know that
Marco
one.
gets the Gem of Sidorak, becomes a Juggernaut with it. Sidorak is one of the other 8 deities. Watum is sort of a
love
brother to him.
this.
I feel like Captain America and the Avengers. I got
I
that.
got that one.
I know that one.
Well, there was one
Yeah.
reference that I got, but we'll get to that in a second. But Dormammu, that was a big part of Doctor Strange,
Yeah.
the big villain. He is the biggest villain in the comics as well.
For Doctor Strange, he's certainly, like, him and Baron Mordo are certainly the 2 main big bads. There's also Nightmare, which Scott Derrickson has said is one of his favorites, and he's hoping to use in the sequel in some
Yeah.
capacity. There's Shuma Gorath, who's one of my favorites. There's a lot of them, but Dormammu is the one. It's the flaming head demon.
And what did you think about how he looked in the film?
Well, if you've been to Burning Man, my good friend Darren says that he thinks that Dormammu looked like an art cart at Burning Man, which I think is pretty on the nose. But I liked it. I didn't love it. I wanted him to have a more head. His head should have been more on fire.
That sounds
for
like
me.
Ghost Rider to me.
Yes, flaming heads.
Sure, the flaming demons have a lot. There's a lot of flaming heads
Yeah.
on the demonic side of Marvel, but I still liked it very much. And one of my favorite things was how they ended the film, because Doctor Strange has never defeated Dormammu just outright in power. He can't. He's
Yeah, so
an
they had to do a
omnipotent,
way around
omniscient,
it.
deity. You can't beat him by pure power. Like you can imprison him, you can trick him, stuff like that. So I was happy to see that they recognize, like, oh yeah, Doctor Strange cannot full on just like magic, now you're dead or gone. Like you have to trick him and make a bargain with him. And that's actually a direct cut to Doctor Strange's first fight with Dormammu in Strange Tales 126 and 127, I
She
think.
just knows so much.
Where he could not defeat Dormammu, but he made a bargain with him.
Right.
You're not allowed to ever enter my earthly plane, and I will do A, B, C. I can't remember the exact story point, but I was like, oh, that's 127. I know that one. I know that one.
I love that. Dan,
Yes.
did you know that Benedict Cumberbatch apparently voiced Dormammu as well?
I did not. I was focused on Dormammu.
Dormammu.
I've come to bargain. I love
Yeah.
this. I've come to bargain.
I like how he walks along.
For Honest Trailer fans, by far the #1 request for John Bailey to say on this week's Honest Trailer.
really?
So you'll hear that.
I've come to make a bargain.
Dormammu, I've
make
come
a
to bargain.
Well, when he was in that scene, he was using his cool bracelets and the eye of Agamotto, and that was the only Easter egg that I got once they said Infinity Stone. I was like, I know what that is.
Yes, Infinity
I know
Stone.
those things, and the Stone of Time.
Time
I'm
Stone,
guessing.
yeah.
Time
Stone.
Stone. Okay.
Now there's only one Infinity Gem left, or stone.
Go.
Yeah, one to go. The Soul
what
Stone.
what is it? The
Soul Stone.
Soul Stone. Okay.
Yeah, it's mind, space, time, reality, power, and soul.
So what did you think about using the Eye of Agamotto in this?
It would not have been Doctor Strange without the Eye of Agamotto. If they had not used the Eye of Agamotto or the Cloak of Levitation, it would just not have been Doctor Strange.
Yeah, Dan, that was a cool part to have, especially the time loops. I thought that was
The
really
time loops was
interesting.
my favorite. That's kind of what tipped the movie over for me as far as enjoyment, was the fact that it wasn't just another huge battle at the end, which is that he used that, you bring something to my dimension, I'm bringing something to yours, and just that, that idea of the loop. I thought that was a really fun way to resolve it, a really clever way to resolve it. But as soon as I saw that it had time properties in my head, I was like, that's
Time stone.
that's one.
Time stone.
Now,
Yep,
so
it's
now we
gotta
got
be.
one in New York.
Yep.
We got one in Vision's head.
Yep.
Yep.
We got one with Nova Prime.
Yep, on Xandar.
That's
Yep.
right.
Xandar.
Yep.
We got one in Asgard, right? With
Asgard.
The
Yep.
the
Yep,
Tesseract ended up
is
going back to
there. Yep,
Asgard.
the Space Stone, yep.
And then we've got one with the Collector, right?
Collector, that's the reality.
The reality.
The ether,
Oh,
yeah.
Dark World. So
interesting.
they're all over the place.
Yeah, and
How will they ever bring these together?
Here's my favorite theory about the time stones is that they all spell out Thanos. Have you seen this theory?
Oh,
They spell out Thanos.
That's
So you've
interesting.
got Tesseract is the T.
Tesseract, yeah.
The H is still blank. The A is ether. The N is necklace for Doctor Strange's Eye of
okay.
Agamotto.
Yeah.
The O is orb, and the S is what was the
Staff?
S? Staff. The staff.
Yeah.
Oh.
Staff. So here, I heard this theory just the other day. I actually think it could be a thing. Heimdall has the Soul Stone. Heimdall, who can see all the realms. That's why he can see all the souls in the entire universe, because he has the Soul Stone. And if you look at his breastplate, there's Yggdrasil and a little
Interesting.
bitty dot right there.
That's way too many Infinity Stones in one.
It is. It's very dangerous that there's two Infinity Stones in Asgard and like 17 on Earth.
Yeah,
So-
that's not right.
well, something that's interesting about Doctor Strange, you were telling me how he can basically fix anything. He's super
a
powerful.
Deus Machina. Am I saying it right?
Yeah, Deus Ex
Ex
Machina.
Machina.
Deus
Ex
Ex
Deus
Machina.
ex Machina, and so he's an interesting character to put within all the other characters. We actually spoke to Benedict Cumberbatch, and we talked about him being kind of the Luke Skywalker of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and here's what he said.
And the parallel we sort of saw, it's sort of the Luke Skywalker of this world where he doesn't have his powers.
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. I mean, it's definitely a delicate balance between, he's a superhero, but obviously he's vulnerable in a human sense, but also he's still learning to be a superhero. So even that's kind of, something still in the making. Definitely.
So the training is not done.
Yeah.
Oh,
Who's
good to
his
know.
Yoda?
Got more to
now?
go.
I don't know. I actually don't know. Like, the Ancient One has always been his Yoda, and the fact that they didn't announce him as the Sorcerer Supreme at the end, I was like, whoa, what? Who's the Sorcerer Supreme now? Like, now there's, like, the sequel's going to be, like, the fight over who's Sorcerer Supreme, because that was actually Baron Mordo's first appearance was, I'm supposed to be the Sorcerer Supreme.
What's your takeaway with that, with Baron Mordo? Because, the end, we're talking spoilers here, so
Sure.
the people have been long since spoiled.
Yeah.
But the last thing we see is him going to Benjamin Bratt's character and taking away the magic that he had and saying there are too many sorcerers in this.
Yeah.
Where do you think, I don't know anything about the comic book story.
Sure.
But where do you think that's going? Is that going to be, obviously it's setting them up to be in opposition to each other, but if you had to guess what his motivation is going to be, is it to take back that power, become the only sorcerer?
I think that like for the film, his biggest driving goal is like rule and order. And he has seen now that like even the Ancient One, who was like, she was rule and order for him, was breaking her own rules. So now he's like so completely disillusioned. I think that it's going to be a fight for there should only be one sorcerer. I'm it.
Power corrupts.
And Chiwetel Ejiofor was such a good casting for that role because he can really sell that. So we're going to go over to Charlie for the social correspondent. Tell us what happens on Twitter. What are people saying? What do they want to know?
Everyone wants to say the quote. Everyone wants to say, you said that's going to be on ScreenJunkies, so that's fabulous. But we have a very specific question for all of you. People want to know where you rank Doctor Strange in the MCU for you.
Yeah, well, Matt, I'm imagining you're a bit biased. You love Doctor Strange.
It's actually not a fair question because I really did love the film. I mean, it has its problems and things, but like I love the film and it's my favorite character. So it's like it's
your number one.
My number one, yeah.
Dan.
Yeah, I think there's an upper tier for me where that Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy and probably the first Avengers movie occupy. I would put this, kind of in the upper part of that kind of second tier with, the movies that I don't think can quite transcend it but I think it's more interesting and it's got some really interesting, cool things in it, different things in it that kind of make it stand apart for me from your Dark Worlds and definitely from like the first Incredible Hulk movie.
Yeah.
I would put it kind of in the top middle to 5, 6, 7 somewhere around that area. I enjoyed it
above the Dark Worlds and probably around the kind of Ant-Man situation.
I put it right around Ant-Man.
Winter Soldier is still my favorite because that felt like it had the most character moments in it and the most drama.
Definitely.
And Ant-Man was really fun as well. But that's Doctor Strange, those visuals, never seen anything like it.
That's
mind-blowing.
That's what this movie has going for it. I didn't find the storytelling itself to be particularly groundbreaking, but the visuals and the way that they did the action was kind of what tipped it over the top for me.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, you'll be delving into it with the first episode of Dan's Labyrinth coming later today on SJ Plus.
4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, live on ScreenJunkies Plus. I have a great guest, which is you.
And now I know so much about Doctor Strange, I feel like I'm ready.
Exactly. This is like a big primer. But we'll be talking about Doctor Strange. I'll kind of give you some of my thoughts, but also I want to talk to you about what you think, and then it's a really cool discussion, I think, just about superhero movies. You're a great film buff and a film historian. How you think what the legacy of superhero movies is going to be.
So interesting.
So much fun stuff. We're going to be taking viewer calls. So if you want to call, talk Doctor Strange, spoilers and non-spoilers, we got spoiler alert tags ready. We are ready to go and super excited. 4 o'clock Pacific time today.
Dan Marrell, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Matt Key, oh my gosh, give me a high five.
Yes,
or
earn
do
the high five.
A portal thing. Oh my gosh, I learned so much. Thank you so much for sharing.
Is that?
Yeah.
There we go.
Get out of here.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us all.
Yeah, I love the ScreenJunkies. I love coming in, and Doctor Strange is like, I can do this. I know this one.
And a very big week for you this week, so congratulations.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Marriage on Saturday.
Marriage.
So exciting.
Yeah.
Charlie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. I'll be here most days, so come talk to me. I'll be talking in the comments and on Twitter, so say hi.
Awesome. That's it for Screen Junkies News. You can look over this way if you want to see more stuff. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Give us a thumbs up and write a nice comment below. I'm Alicia Malone. I'll see you soon.